Nigeria is Africa's largest ICT and telecoms market, accounting for over 82% of the continent's telecom subscribers and 29% of the internet users. Globally, Nigeria ranks 11th in the absolute number of internet users and 7th in the absolute numbers of mobile phones. And economically, the ICT and telecom sector has contributed over 10% to Nigeria's gross national product for the past 10 years. On this week's edition of Business Matters, we are going to be spotlighting the telecom industry, looking at where the potentials are, where have there been pitfalls, as well as where the opportunities obviously dwells. This is Business Matters, and my name is Stephen Ipalabo Lawson. You're welcome. The telecom industry is quite versatile. As a matter of fact, the value chain has beginning to have impact in our daily lives, economically, socially, as well as in entertainment level. The telecoms industry has to be very successful because it has become a model of what we are getting right as a country. So much more so that it has helped to create opportunities for job creations as well as impacting the life of the individuals and citizens of the country. Let's have a business update.
Hey, beautiful, your eyes, your smile are all begging me to take you home tonight. Now reading page 3. Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Entel 4G.
Entel. Live more.
You're welcome to this special segment where we invite a distinguished professional to help us do justice to the topic of the day. And my guest today is an industry leader who is very active in promoting forward-looking industry policies for the growth of the telecom industry across Africa, working with both regulators as well as operators to achieve this goal. He has also promoted the establishment of telecoms infrastructure in several African countries, including Ghana, Togo, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Kenya, Uganda, and Angola, amongst others. He currently acts as the president and chief executive of the premier telecom body in Nigeria, which is the Association of Telecommunications Company of Nigeria, ATCON, an umbrella organization with over 100 member companies, as a matter of fact, that cuts across the sectors in telecoms and ICT industry in Nigeria. He's also recently served as an executive board member of the Nigeria Internet Registration Association, the organization responsible for managing Nigeria's country code top-level domain, which is the .ngtlv. He's a recipient of several national and international awards for his contribution to the growth of the telecoms and ICT industry, and amongst which severally includes the 2022 ICT Man of the Year, as well as the Entrepreneur Personality of the Year at the African Digital Awards, and the 2021 Outstanding Promoter of ICT for National Development Award at the Titans of Tech Hall of Fame's award. He also is a recipient of the 2020 Nigerian Art 60 ICT Hall of Fame by Tech TV, the 2020 ICT Personality of the Year by Communications Week as well. He was the 2019 NAS Man of the Year. Also in that same year, the Beacon of ICT Hall of Fame Award recipient, the Nigerian Telecom Industry CEO of the Year, and ICT Industry Entrepreneur of the Year. Interestingly enough, in 2018, he was awarded the 2018 Enterprise Award by the Transformation Institute in Toronto, Canada. He holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and a master's in the same field from the Tennessee State University in the United States of America. Dear viewers, please join me as I welcome Engineer Ikechukwu Nnamani, the CEO of Medalloin Data Centers Limited, who is also the president of Outcome. And we're looking at leveraging telecoms potentials for business development. Good day to you, Ikechukwu. It's always a wonderful opportunity for us to meet.
Thank you.
We always see at different events where I have the opportunity to anchor. And I was excited when my producer told me that we're having this great man on set. And I said, good, because there is no better time to have an individual like yourself than a time where we are facing a whole lot of challenges in the country as it is with regards to the cashless policy. And you have been a foremost promoter of not just excellent professionalism, innovation, as well as how you can leverage technology to provide solutions, as the case is. But before we go into all of those very murky waters, one we wonder, how has the state of the telecom industry been post-COVID era? Because we know that the digital platform actually helped us to stay afloat, regardless of the fact that a lot of people lost their life during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me. Always
It's a
great
pleasure.
to chat with you. The industry is been dynamic. It's been challenging. It's also we've also seen a situation where a lot of the activities that we anticipate was going to happen years down the line is beginning to happen now, just based on the acceleration in the digital economy. So this is also creating some challenges, which some of it we're all aware of in terms of how to catch up with service delivery and then infrastructure upgrades that needs to take place to meet that requirement. But all in all, we are in a better place than we were years ago in terms of class of service that's available to the consumers. We just saw over the last year the award of 5G license and actually the launch of the service by the two providers that have got that. Once that is well spread out, then we start seeing new class of service that is 5G enabled come into play, which will be for the good of everyone.
How do we respond to the state of the broadband penetration? Are we going to be so much concerned? Because even the quality of internet access in the country so far is creating a whole lot of problems.
So what you say with that, and this again is when you look at broadband, you have to look at it from the various subsectors or categories of broadband, right? 5G, for instance, is a broadband service because it has more, it has data, it has, a lot of throughput that comes to people do wirelessly, right? If you look at your traditional fiber-based broadband service that you have to do with fiber to the home or transmission network, that is where we've had challenges in the past where what we are noticing is that on the metro level, especially in cities like Lagos, there is a lot of fiber deployment going on. As most of the estates are now being connected, most of the business premises are now being connected. So once those are done, and these things take time, that's the reality of it, right? But over a period of time, we'll start seeing the benefit of this. But the National Broadband Plan is in full swing. It was re-energized last year, so various part of it is ongoing. In my humble opinion, it's probably going to take us another 1 to 2 years to start seeing some of the result of what we are doing, just because of the time it takes to put this infrastructure in place when the work starts. It's not plug and play. The earliest or the fastest you can do is take advantage of existing infrastructure and boost the capacity in them. But that is not enough. You still have to spread out and build new infrastructure.
Okay, yeah, because I'm going to come to the question of the telecoms infrastructure as a matter of fact. But one wonders exactly where the place of the government's digital economic policy is. I mean, you sit on the boards of different agencies, and then of recent you just traveled to Abuja and back, and you've done so much in terms of the .ng domain extension, which to a large extent we're not seeing a lot of adoption in that regard. However, the government through its agency, the NCC, as well as other of those agencies, NITDA and the rest of them, are dealing with seeing exactly how we can synchronize a digital economic policy. And so far, so good. Are we going to have a hope in terms of having this achieved? I mean, you're talking about digital identity. You are talking about some of those scattered data here and there. Doesn't that worry you?
No. Again, the one misconception we have sometimes is people just assume that this thing happens within a few weeks or months. No. Sometimes it takes years to actually get to where you want to go. but
But
they
in other
should be, they
climes,
should
in other
be-
climes,
no,
it's
in
a
other
different
climes it's the
story.
same.
Okay.
If you check our telecom and digital life, you know, it's less than literally 20 years old, right? If you check, most times we tie it to when we have quote unquote the GSM service or the mobile digital mobile license issued and operational. That's how far we go. Some of these other countries have been operating for 10 times that in terms of timeline, right? So, but we have an advantage, and that advantage is that we are not dealing with so much legacy infrastructure. We are
Okay.
almost getting in at what is the most recent technologies is being implemented. So that gives us an advantage. But remember, we suffered from a fundamental infrastructure deficit that was never there. And that was what NITEL, the old NITEL, was supposed to build, a national backbone
Okay.
that all this was supposed to ride on. So when we look at provision of digital service, one is the service itself. We should have service providers that come up with a wonderful idea. Somebody develop WhatsApp, somebody develops Zoom, somebody. So these are services that the consumers use for the betterment of life. Then you have the service provider that offers it to the consumer, right? So at the end of the day, when a consumer is using a service, let's even assume fintech, okay? When a consumer is using a banking app, that banking app, you have you yourself, the consumer, you've got the network provider that you are you are using, you are using your phone, right, on a network. Then you have the fintech provider. And then you may even have several layers of people, including banks, you understand, within that ecosystem. And then you now have the infrastructure. So it's a whole bouquet of services that different people are providing to make it work. So when we look at it holistically, the reality is that the foundational infrastructure that if it was in place would have made all of this easier was never there. Okay, and if we go back to it, we trace it to the fact that there was never a national backbone that was built by NITEL.
Okay.
that was
Let me interject because
available.
I want to take as much as I can get from you within the short period of time that we have. Data centers. I don't think the industry so much more have seen so much of the spread of data centers. What's the relevance? How important is
So,
that to the infrastructural mix?
So without data centers, you have no service.
Fantastic.
So in terms of how important it is, it's as basic as that, right? The reason that you can use your phone today to either make a call, check WhatsApp, anything, because a data center exists, that service is running out of a data center. These servers, this infrastructure must be located in a data center. That is how critical a data center is in the whole ecosystem. Now, what we've seen in recent time is that in appreciation of the fact that that is a critical component in the whole telecom and ICT ecosystem, there's been some new investments coming into that space where some new data centers are now being built, more modern data centers are now being built that would attract international players to come and be confident enough to put their infrastructure within those data centers. Before now, all this stuff was domiciled outside the country, and then we now have to use the submarine cable or the satellites to be able to access them where they are domiciled. Now we are beginning to see a lot of this infrastructure come into the country. But guess what? To build a solid data center, from the day you say, I want to build it, you put a team together to design the data center, you acquire the land, you do your investment. It takes a minimum of 3 years.
3 years.
A minimum of 3 years.
So why don't go the route of modular models to be able to, you know?
So even the modular one, right? Okay, so you have your brick and mortar, you have your prefab, then you have your modular ones, which is like you expect somebody to just bring and put. You can't do modular beyond a certain capacity. There is a size you go to. If you want to have like 6 racks, 10 racks, yes, you can do that. But if you're looking at hundreds of racks, thousands of racks, like in a hyperscale data center, there's no modular data center like that. The closest you have is what we call the prefabricated one, which means it's done elsewhere, and all you have to do is do your foundation, and then you bring it in and do installation. But those also have their limitations. There's a lot of limitations of that. Realistically, if you start going beyond modules of 2 megawatts, you get, then it starts losing its value. It's also much more expensive than to do your traditional brick and mortar. So everything has its plus and minus around it. With a prefabricated one, you can probably look at maybe 12 to 18 months. Even that is not yes tomorrow, right? So it's what it is. So we need to first understand that infrastructure takes time to build. Infrastructure takes time to build right. Right? The problem we've seen in the country in the past is that even the infrastructures that were not done right. Now we are trying to correct that to make sure that the infrastructures are built right so that the quality of service is sustained. It's one thing to put the infrastructure, but if it's not done right, you're going to have poor quality of service coming out of it, right? So this is the reality of the matter, and hopefully we'll get it right. But the good thing is that there is commitment. We are seeing a lot of private sector commitments coming in to ensure that this happens. People are ready to have faith in the country, so investment is coming in. But at the same time, we still have the challenges, right? Operational challenges. If you don't have diesel to power your data center, for instance, how is it going to work, right? If your utility company, yeah, but IPPs also have their challenges. Sometimes they have issues with gas supply and all that. So it's a challenge. But what I'm seeing, which kind of makes it exciting, is I'm also seeing people stepping up to face the challenges.
All right.
On that note, and that is a good thing.
On that note, we're going to go on a commercial short break, and when we are back, we're going to deal with so much in terms of overcoming the challenges, because this next half of our engagement will deal with some of the challenges we are facing right now in the country. Please stay tuned. Business Matters continues after this commercial break.
Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Entel 4G.
Entel. Live more.
All right, if you've just joined us, this is Business Matters, and I'm in the studio with engineer Ikechukwu Nnamani. He is the MD CEO of a Medallion Data Services Limited here in Nigeria, as well as the president of Outcon. And we've been looking at leveraging telecoms potentials for business development. It's been a wonderful, wonderful fireside conversation. But before we went on the break, we are going to dwell on challenges. And one of the challenges I'm going to bring to fore presently right now, Mr. Nnamani, you are confronted with some of the issues we are facing in the country. The cashless issue, which we know thrives on the telecoms infrastructures and backbone. We're wondering, why is it that we as a society have to face all of this? Were there no projections that there are going to be a situation whereby the demand for cashless values, as the case might be, was going to come down to us on this level, where all of a sudden you can't access cash, transfers are going berserk, and then we can't even take your own money that are in the bank? And so who is to be blamed? And why does it look as if the operators themselves do not care?
It's unfortunate. We are all direct users of this service. Let's be real, let's be realistic. It's a challenge, right? But what you need to understand is that I've spent time in several countries, and I don't think I've been in any country where they use cash as much as we do.
Really?
I can assure you. Even if you go to Ghana, just Ghana next door here, right? You notice that even the most basic things, they use their mobile money channels for it and all that. You understand? So there's still cash, but not at the level we deal with it in Nigeria.
Perhaps maybe the network in those climes are far better than
no,
it is right here.
It's the same operators. Go to Ghana, it's the same operators you have here. So it's not about the network, right? But when you talk of network, then that goes back to who are the providers that makes up this. Like as I was explaining earlier, when you're using your phone, right, to do a financial transaction, you, the user, you are, yes, using your phone, but the app that you are running is not by the phone or telecom company, it's by a financial institution, right? So if there is a failure,
a fintech, more like,
yeah,
it depends.
Exactly. So if there is a failure, right, in that transaction, where does that failure come from? Is it coming from the network you are using, or is it coming from the bank, right? So anybody, it's not a blame game, right? Because it's easier for somebody to say, oh, is the telco that is the problem, or is the
Mr.
fintech?
Ikechukwu,
The
please,
reality.
please forgive me. I
Yeah.
have to interject because
Okay.
you see, why does it look as if when they want to deduct your money
Yeah.
or your data,
Yeah.
their systems are efficient? But when it is to provide those services,
Have you?
it's never efficient.
Have you ever had a situation, right, where for a long time you never use your bank account, right?
Okay.
And then somebody needed to pay you, and the money got into your account, no problem. It
Of course,
went in. It
yes.
was not rejected by your bank, right? And then you show up in the bank to withdraw the money, and then they tell you, oh, sorry, your account is dormant because you've not used it for a long time. It's a one-flow direction. Call it human nature. We are good at receiving, but very, very poor at giving.
Yeah, but
okay?
these banks, and institutions
I
are
use
declaring
that-
profits.
I use that
profits
to say,
at whose detriment?
hey, I use that to say that there is a need, right,
Of
for
course.
a very, very strong consumer protection structure and system in the country.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And this doesn't matter whether you're talking of telecom, whether you're talking of finance, insurance, or any other stuff, right? Unfortunately, the end users, and this cuts across, whether you even go to the hospitals, even if you're talking about healthcare, right? Unfortunately, the end users, who are the Nigerian citizens, have not benefited from the best quality of service across any sector. That's just the reality of it, right?
Yeah, but
the solution out of that,
aren't these corporations guilty of what I call corporate theft? Because it's all
It's-
fraudulent.
it's-
Somebody
if-
deducts money for a service you didn't subscribe for, and then
the issue is how do you address it? How you address it is simply having a very strong consumer protection agency that is active. So if somebody illegally deducts credit from my line, right, for a service not rendered, right, I should be able to get not just a refund, but a compensation. What is missing before now is that even if you go out of your way to seek redress, right, at the end of it, you are only compensated for, quote unquote, what has been taken from you. There's no additional compensation for the discomfort, for the stress. So I give you an example. I once had this unfortunate situation where I noticed that I was just receiving messages of deduction on my airtime for a particular network. So, of course, it was small amount because it was 50 naira per week that they were deducting. So you would say 50 naira per week is not worth your while, but if unfortunately they are deducting this 50 naira from 1 million people, it's no longer 50
That's a lot
naira,
of
it's
money,
now 50 million.
50 million.
If they are deducting it from 10 million people, it's now 500 million. It's a lot of money. And that is where there could be an incentive for people to be fraudulent, right? So I just figured, but when it continued, fortunately one day I was passing by, I saw a customer service of the operator. I stopped in there, I said, this is wrong. Initially they said, maybe I activated it. I said, I'm not stupid enough to know when I activate a service or not. Most importantly, the service for which the deduction was taking place was a service I never need in my life. So it wasn't a case I would have, because there was no reason I needed that service for, right? So fortunately, they looked at it, they refunded the money that was deducted. But guess what? It cost me more money to even visit the customer care center to have it redressed than what they've deducted. So who compensates me for that? Who compensates me for the inconvenience? So this is where a strong consumer advocate system needs to be in place that ensures that when any of this happens, whether it is in the banking sector, telecom sector, healthcare, insurance, that consumers are not just compensated for what was taken from them, but there's additional punitive measure.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, which for me is always is really a demerit on our program. But what we're going to do is this, Mr. Ikechukwu, pardon me.
Yeah.
We're going to request specially that we're going to have this conversation continued, and I hope that when we extend an invitation to you, you will please kindly honor us, regardless of the challenges we face, because this telecoms issue will need to be discussed further. But fortunately, we've run out of time. I want to say a big thank you for joining us on this particular show. Ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you we're going to have a part 2 of this conversation on telecoms, as a matter of fact, because this is a subject we can't exhaust, so much so to speak. But nevertheless, Business Matters continues after this short break. right, viewers, this is so much we can take on this part one of our telecoms potentials and infrastructure discussion. I can assure you we're going to have this conversation continued, as a matter of fact. Until we come here again next week, my name remains Stephen Ipalabo Losse. Bye for now.